Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Farming Will Make You Millions, with your MAPS coaches, Scott Koyman and Kenny Klaus. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you'll automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have any questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching program, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's fasttrack@kw.com. All right, that's all for me. Go ahead and take it away, coaches.
Hey everybody, this is Scott Koyman. Kenny is right outside my door. He'll be heading in here in just a second. And excited to be with you here today talking about farming and some of the things that we've learned out here in Arizona. Here's Kenny, he's walking in the door. Kenny, you're feeling great today, aren't you?
Man, I am sorry, guys. Fortunately, you're on that end of the phone, not sitting here next to me like poor Scott.
Well, I'm just glad to be in a small room with all your germs today.
Yeah, that's what I need.
I appreciate it. So we want to share some stuff that we've learned farming out here in Arizona, and some things that we've learned have worked, some things that we've learned have not worked. And one of the things that we always start off with, because we're just on a different page with everybody, well, this is who we are. We've been doing about 120 to 135 million a year out here in Arizona on a mid 200s average price. And so one of the things that we like to do to start off with is just make sure we're on the same page as to what farming is, because I think some people, farming is sending out just sold postcards. To other people, farming is like a all-in just life-consuming thing. And we want to make sure we're all on the same page with what we're talking about. So when we talk about farming, it's consistent, ongoing, repetitive marketing of your name to a consistent market. And the purpose of doing it is so that when anybody in the market thinks of real estate, the first thing that comes to their mind is you. And a lot of what we do is just all about positioning, and all the activities that we're doing, it's about positioning. And if you haven't read any of the great books on positioning, there's a great one called Positioning. It's putting your product in a specific category, so when somebody thinks of that category, science and psychology kicks in, reticular activators remind them of their brand, and that's what we want. Is we want, whenever anybody's thinking about buying or selling, that maybe they don't need to have your marketing piece right in front of them, that they already have your name and contact information in their head because it's been hitting so many times. And we see that on listings quite a bit, Kenny, don't we?
Yeah, and I think that number is accurate to a degree. I mean, the market is shifting, obviously, with the way we're seeing leads come in with, the online stuff now, and everybody seems to have a referral fee attached to our leads anymore. That's why, to me, the geographic side of this is you're getting to them before giving them a reason to go to the internet and find their value and find an agent. So the point with the slide is 64% are only interviewing one and 17% two. So when you add those up, you've got over 80% are only interviewing 1 to 2 people combined. So point being with that is that top of mind, that brand awareness is what our goal is, to help you build and really become the mayor of your community, if you will, to where you become a household name when they think real estate. So again, the idea to not give them a reason to have to go. They still do, even with the things we've done. They'll still go to Zillow to get another opinion, because for whatever reason they think that is, if they like it, they tell us about it. If they don't like it, they don't talk about Zillow. So but I always tell them, look, if they're not buying your house, it's really irrelevant. They're really just the Dear Abby of real estate. They're just there for entertainment purposes. Here's what's happening in the market, and we kind of do the whole robot versus realtor type concept to really personalize it and really just work to continue to add value and kind of share our why and our passion and care for the community, as well as getting homes sold and negotiating for them. That check's good to go.
another study that we got, a couple studies we want to share real quick. NAR asked sellers and buyers, would you use your agent again? They said 83% of the time they said they would. And then they followed up with those same people, and those numbers changed significantly. Only 28% of sellers use their agent again, 11% of buyers. And that number is weird to me because I can understand sellers, they're moving away generally. So you would think that number would be lower, but here we are. 11% of the time that we sell them a house, we know exactly where they live. We have their address, we have their contact information, and they still use a different agent.
But that gap in between there is where the opportunity lies for farming. Is that it means 89% of every buyer who buys in a geographic area, odds are they're not going to use that agent again to sell the home. So even if you're not, in the first couple of years, you're not selling meaning you're not finding the buyer for everyone. When they go to sell someday, there's a real good chance that they're orphaned and that you will end up getting that at bat because they've now seen your stuff 12 months, every month, meaning every month for 12 months over and over. And then we're going to talk as we go through these classes about the activities that and value adds that we want to really instill that have worked for us. And the benefit I hope of this class and sharing with you guys is this isn't stuff we used to do or stuff I did 20 years ago. I mean, this is stuff we're doing currently in the current market as we go through this class. So I want you to know it's real time, real activities, and more than ever, the benefit of the internet, and I don't know all you guys' opinion on this, but my opinion on the internet so far is good. Continue to do what you're doing, continue to create more iBuyer markets and discount brokerages and marketing and advertising, because it just pushes them back to a trusted source. I mean, the market is so confusing on how to sell a home in today's market and should you do it on your own, and that's where being a trusted advisor, really, like I said, being the mayor of the community where you become the resource. That's why I think farming, it's more opportunity now than ever. And everything kind of goes cyclical, right? So you go through all these different iterations in life and in business and in fashion and in music and everything. And I feel like we're kind of somewhat there in technology where it's great for certain things, but this is a big emotional experience for people that they, in some cases, it's 7-8 years in between the times they do it. This isn't like hopping in an Uber or picking a hotel or a flight. This is a big experience. And so I think we always have to remember that and not become transactional and just make sure that we're there for the emotional side and not rushing and understanding, but really being the local market expert. And some of the next slides are going to really explain that even more. And again, these aren't our stats. This is from NAR. And you look at, honesty and integrity, 98% said that's important in an agent. I'm not sure who the 2% are that said we're not interested in that. but I mean, they're out there, obviously.
Well, I think we've met them. Yes.
We've met them. I think we've had that 2% here. But knowledge of the process, and again, that's conveying that knowledge, and it is a big process. The one thing with the iBuyers, and I guess I share that because we get hit so much out here, is they've tried to really simplify the process, and that's part of our goal too. Is we understand it is a process, and then we know how to navigate you through that and guide you. Responsiveness makes sense. Knowledge of the market. So this is that local market expert, right? That's like our brand is certified local market expert. Communication skills are always very important, and then knowledge of the area. I don't know if anyone's surprised by your tech skills, but 37% care how good you are with your tech skills, meaning I think the assumption is that we all have the same tech stuff. All our companies give us the same stuff. So I don't know that that's their deciding factor. But if I know that 92% want knowledge, they want someone who has knowledge of the market, and 77% knowledge of the area, I mean, you're talking, almost 8 out of 10 on average then are saying, look, these are important to us. So if you can convey that message in your marketing, and then once you're at the table, conversion rate goes through the roof.
And I think when we look at that knowledge of the market, I think when NAR asked the concept, they're asking about the general market, but in when we deal with people in locales, they're more concerned with, I don't think anybody here is concerned about Phoenix Metro as a whole as they are in the area that they're either going to buy or sell. And they want people that are knowledgeable about that specific instead of just, well, the US, this is what the figures are. Well, they're not as concerned about that. It's what makes a difference for us. So I want to dive in. We're going to hit a couple different areas because we've been doing a lot of different things with farming here in Arizona. And we have our main farms that we've been doing for a while. We've done them a specific way. And we tried some launches of some farms and tried different things to see what was working. We tried different mailers. We'll show you some examples of those. And one of the things that we noticed across the board is when they were successful, and we had some farms that I guess, we had some low activity farms and some high activity farms. And we saw that was the main difference is if they were just relying on direct mail alone, the ROI on a couple of them was getting back exactly in income, getting back exactly what we spent on print. Some of them were negative when we talk about just the direct mail only. But then when we looked at the farms where the activities were consistent, that there was a presence in the community, relationships were being built, and we were doing direct mail on top of that, that's where we saw the big success. So we want to walk through on this call 4 different things. We're going to walk through a lot more on the course if you're going to dive into that. But what I want to spend time on in this call is direct mail, community presence and value. I'll give you a couple ideas there. What relationships look like in a farm and why they're important. And then real briefly on expertise and reputation, just to hit with what we see happening with this slide. Because when those 4 things were happening, Kenny, that's when the farms were doing the best. And when those things were missing and we were just doing direct mail, it was hit or miss. There wasn't excitement. There wasn't. It was just another mail piece.
Well, and the newsletter and the content it's really just meant to give you content. I mean, it's still a contact sport. We still got to get out and, make the newsletter come alive and be the face that they actually go, oh, that's who's doing that. So it's definitely not a send it out and wait for the phone to ring. I mean, that is a byproduct over time with it, but beginning is specifically is running the route and the things we're going to talk about to really become the mayor and become known in the area as a great community advocate.
So if you're sitting in front of a computer on your screen, you'll see what we just sent to the printer. That'll be hitting mailboxes here right around the 1st. And this is our newsletter. Currently we have 2 that look like this. They're in different zip codes. And they're 8 pages. We have another one that's 4-page for a smaller zip code. And we'll also show you some postcard options. But this is what we send out. We send it out EDDM. I'm going to give you the bird's eye view here because we've just got a limited amount of time. But on the course, we really dive into the how and a lot more into it. But we've made some changes over the years. This is where we're at. We like to have the market stats right there on the front. A cover that is pleasing to the eye, that's themed, and you'll see we've got a couple teasers on the front because we want them to open it. We want people to engage with the piece because the more they engage with the piece, the more they engage with our calls to action, the more they engage with our brand, and that's really why we send this out. We want them to engage with the brand because we want to be first in mind. We also want to have them give us a call if they have any questions. So we want them to look at their home value. We want to take them out of circulation from anybody else.
Yep.
And so we send these out. Now, you'll notice the first couple pages are articles, and people dig those. They like to find out what's going on. They tend to call us and ask us about new developments in the community. If they start bulldozing on the corner, they sometimes people call us before they call the city to figure out what's going in there. And luckily enough, we spend a lot of time and relationships to get some of that information before it goes out to the public. We do some community stuff. We do our workshops. This one, we actually have 2 workshops in there. And then that page there that says recent sales, when we talk to people, that's the #1 thing they reference, is a list of recent sales, which is the easiest content to get, and it is the most valuable. The other stuff is more difficult to get. It takes more work. This stuff, it's just, pulling up the MLS. Now, one of the neat things, years ago, I had the idea, well, on all of our listings, let's put our logo on it so that they know it's ours. And how did that backfire?
Well, yeah, I mean,
we realized that if we don't put our logo next to them, they think they're all ours.
Right.
And so we stopped putting our logo next to the listings that we sold. That is the most valuable. We give some market updates, and then we have our lender in there. We have our neighborhood network meeting. That's
and going back one, I mean, some of the stuff like the home buying and selling workshop, I mean, to us, again, when I talk about an action or a contact sport, this is how you get in front of people. And once you start building an audience, meaning once your newsletter starts to get some circulation, it gets kind of known and people are interacting, then now you've built an audience, and now you can, start doing these kind of things. And even if you don't have that audience yet, you can still host one. And trust me, if you get 2 or 3 people there, it's still a huge win, because people still see that you're out doing it. Plus, this gives you content that you can control. And then in October, I'm doing the first time we've done where we're doing a financial workshop where we're inviting CPA, financial planner, attorney, self-directed IRA, mortgage, and we're doing a big 2-hour event, kind of what they didn't teach you in school about money. And the idea was to get into other people's database, but again, use the newsletter as the distribution to get people out, because even if they don't make the event, but they see that we're out involved financially, meaning like on the economy, and just relevant, meaning that we're actually out working, and we really get branded as an authority in the area and on the market. So these have been fun little things to create, and it actually gives us unique content for our own newsletter.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Ooh.
We do our network meeting monthly. We have our lender in there to take part, and then we have our iBuyer. So on the back, we generally have something that's branded and a call to action, because we don't know when they get their mail if it's going to land face up or face down. So we want to make sure our brand is on both sides. So that is the 8-page newsletter. Again, we dive into a lot more into why each piece is in there, how we put it together. This is some of the other stuff that we'll throw in there at different times. The back will change up a little bit to give you an idea there. So we have a consistent front and back. We want when they see it that they know it's what it is. And the reason that we want that to happen is because we notice that our piece will survive the initial purge to the trash can. And so we want them to see it, to know what it is, and know that it's not an ad, that it is a community newsletter. We have school info in there. In August and September, we have all the football schedules. This year we made sure it was extra graphically pleasing because we wanted kids to then put it on the wall of their room. We do that with sports. We've done, now Kenny's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, so they have the terrible towels. So we did the Jag Rag for the Jaguars and made one of those. Of course, it had our logo on it, but we had those, so we go into listings and see those on the walls of the kids' rooms. So we want to make sure that we're hitting on all cylinders. We've done free classifieds in the past. It's not something that we do so much anymore, but people will give us information to put in there. Like this month we did some community garage sales and that kind of thing. Free classifieds we did pretty consistently, and then the internet kind of caught up, and generally by the time somebody would sell something, the newsletter was coming out about that time because we have lead time for our printers. So we don't do that too much anymore. And then it was a lot of people in their little side businesses and stuff like that.
Sorry.
Kenny's just sending all his germs all through here. We do community info, stuff like fireworks, fun events, fundraisers. We do a lot of collections, which helps us be a big part of the community. We'll talk about that briefly here in just a minute too, and then the recent sales and listings. We like to integrate it with social media. We have a page for each of the communities that gets these newsletters, and we're posting content all the time to that, and that way we continue to stay engaged. And then what's neat too, we share this in one of the sessions in our class, is little ways you can use some of the tools on Facebook. When we do the newsletter, we can write the article, put it on a blog, and delay the publication until the day the newsletter hits. And we can also use the same thing on Facebook. We can write the post, have everything there, and schedule it to go out the same day the newsletter hits or a couple days later. That way we're not giving away all the information that we're teasing on the cover, and still be able to provide that value on an ongoing basis. We talked about some of the other farm things that we tried. One of them, we were using postcards instead of newsletters. It was a little bit cheaper, surprisingly not considerably cheaper, but we used a consistent front with all of the data on it. We had some calls to action on the back. Sometimes we put some stories on the back, and that allowed us to stay in front of them. It wasn't as difficult to come up with the content, but a lot of this was, we were sending those out, and those folks were not doing as many activities as we do in our major farm. And this is why we like to be in front of people. The more consistent that we are, they did a study here, SMEI, 2% of business that we saw was tied to the first piece, 4% to the second piece, 6%. You're just growing a little bit, and from the fifth piece, 81%. So, and we see these same numbers on telemarketing too. That you gotta hit people about 5 times before they're willing to talk to you. Well, same thing on direct mail pieces. It takes about 5 times to cement the brand in their heads, and so we don't want to do those one-offs as much. In fact, when we do just sold postcards, when we do new listings, things like that, if we're doing those postcards, we generally only do them in our farm because we have a much higher return than when we do them outside of our farm. So that's the direct mail piece. A huge piece to keep in front of people. We're doing some other stuff though too. We want to chat about community presence and providing value. There's a lot of things that we do. This is the water watcher tags. Is this graphic okay for you?
Yeah, it's much better. Yeah, we have another graphic that he tends to leave when I'm out presenting in public. Has two little hands sticking out of the water, and it's
a kid. It's like a kid drowning, and it made sense at the time, and then it just,
somebody called it out. Anyway, so the idea is just, these are simple little things. They're just you can kind of gauge the size of those on yellow sheets of paper, cut up, and then printed, laminated, and then put on a lanyard. And they make good little gifts for our move-in buckets, good little items of value for people to stop by our office. All those kind of things. So just that little, just that we care and giving them out. So they're really simple, affordable, and handy and again, just create conversation.
And this was one of the easiest. When you're in the course, we actually have a little recipe book that shows you how to do this. We have the templates, but we printed these off probably 2012, and bought the lanyards, and we're still giving the same ones out.
Yeah.
So we have a huge drawer full of them. We just printed probably about 1,000 of them, and we just continue to give it out. And so every spring we do a new story in the newsletter, say this is where you can come pick them up. People come by, pick them up, and hopefully we've saved some lives. But it's a huge part of what's going on in Arizona because we have so many pools. In fact, there was a kid passed away a couple days ago in Mesa. Similar thing, a party, and people weren't watching, and they don't know exactly when he went under. So we want to make sure people are watching the kids, and of course this lets everybody know that we care, and it's a huge piece to that community presence, providing value, showing people that we live in the community, we care about the community, we're engaged in the community. When we do open houses, when we're door knocking, we do food drives with all of our open houses, and we have provided tons and tons of food to the food bank, and we've been able to engage with people, and it makes the door knocking softer, significantly softer, because we're not just coming to sell them something. We're coming to invite them to an open house and give them an opportunity to donate food to the canned food drive. Our canned food drive is consistently going, by the way. We're always doing it. But we went out and printed some grocery bags with our nonprofit, which is Klaus Team Cares, 501c3. Really cool thing to do when you're farming, by the way. And we go into that in the course too, and some of the ways that that's a huge success for us. But it allows our agents, it's a huge value for our agents too, because the bags are here. It gives them a reason to go out and hit those doors. It's a nice leave behind. When people aren't there, they just staple the open house flyer to the bag. And people don't have to come to the open house. They can call us for a pickup, and we'll come pick up that food. And so it's letting people know, even when we don't talk to them, that we care about what's going on in our community. This is another one we're doing this Saturday, Shred Day. We're spent, it was about $400, right? $400 for a shred truck to come sit here for 3 hours. People can come bring all of their documents that they need to be shredded, and we'll do it until the truck is full. And all we're asking is that they bring in some canned food. If somebody comes and they're not bringing canned food, I'm not going to turn them away. They can shred their documents, but hopefully we can bring some food to people that need it here in the valley.
Yep. That's a good one. And it's a reason, again, keep in mind, it's a reason to go contact people, right? So everything is on with a purpose. This is easy to go talk to area businesses who have your customers coming in, your future and current customers coming into their businesses in your hyper local area, your database. That's all meant to add value, so it gives you a purpose to call versus, hey, you have any real estate questions, or do you know anyone looking to buy or sell? That doesn't really get too many people fired up to make calls, where something like this is on purpose. It gives you social media presence to be able to post. So again, everything we do, we try to go, whose best interest does it have? And then is there a byproduct to it? And so this is a good little community thing. And I know you guys have all heard these before, but I really want to share, because we've made the mistake of doing this kind of stuff before too, and then not really leveraging it. And you really want to leverage this and make it a big deal if you can, to give you a reason. Because even if people don't show up, they see it, they're aware you're doing it, and it just is a good value add. So
yeah, and it's not like we're not going to have real estate conversations. We'll have our little booth set up. We'll have some things to give them. We'll have opportunities to ask questions, but to them, that's not the focus. Of course, all this stuff, why are we doing it? Because we want to find buyers and sellers, right? But we're not going to the perception is, the greater things that we're able to do through these events. So that's some of the stuff on community presence and value. We'll walk through a lot more detail. We have an entire session that's just a bunch of activities, events, things like that we can do in the community. Want to talk about relationships. This is Brock, and Brock is one of our newer agents that's just been diving into, what does he call it, Foodie Friday? And he's just going to different restaurants and doing a quick video talking about them, and he's sampling their food. And these community videos is a great way for us to build relationships with business owners in the community who may not own in the community, they may not need to, or they may have bought before in the community, they live in the community, but they probably won't sell anytime soon. And so it's not like they're clients, but when we build these strong relationships with people in our community, this can be business owners, this can be people at the schools, principals, all those kinds of things. When we build relationships with them, when we give them value and help their business or their school or their organization, they turn into brand ambassadors for us. And what's neat is getting referrals on real estate from people that we have never served they've never been a client. And so we do a lot of this when we're farming, and we're very intentional about it. We do our neighborhood network meetings, we do business videos, we do workshops, we get the word out, both about programs maybe that the school's having, but we're also, we strive to be charitable with them. We have our 501c3, and what is neat is a couple of these elementary schools, we've come to find out that when they have a need, when there's a family in need in the school, we are the first ones they reach out to, which is just so stinking cool that we're first in mind, not just in real estate, but we're first in mind in people that take care of kids and their families. And that's one of the neat things. You get up and go to work, and that's a piece of it that makes it incredibly fun. And it's fun for our agents too to be a part of something like that. We just what was it, a bicycle? We just donated a bicycle that they're going to use for some Title I stuff. Title I is low income folks, and so a kid that is going to be able to win that bike, which is just cool. So we just go out and about, and it's an easy conversation. You walk into a business, hey, we'd love to come do an interview. It'll take about 5-10 minutes. We'll post it online. We'll use a lot of hashtags, and we'll put it on YouTube so it gets all that Google juice and give you some extra exposure. And so this one, he had posted September 14, and he's got, it looks like 2,200 views for not only him, not only for our team, but also for this restaurant, Mexican restaurant that is out there. And so they're getting all that extra exposure. It's these things are good for everybody. And so we want to build those relationships. We like to give a lot of opportunities in the course to talk about how to do that. And then just that community expert concept, we want to have the expertise and the reputation. The expertise comes from doing and knowing and researching on a regular basis, knowing the market, finding those stats that are specific to the farm, those kinds of things. And we want to do that on a regular basis. But reputation, that comes from how you do your work. And so we strive to go over the top on how we treat our clients, how we treat others in the industry. We have a concept on our team called 212, and it's the drive of how we do things and how we choose what we're going to do, how we choose we're going to act and react. At 211 degrees, water is hot, and it'll basically burn your finger, and that's about all it's good for. At 212 degrees, it produces steam. Steam can power a locomotive, and so that boiling point is the difference of 1 degree. So we want to make sure that we are providing that extra degree that makes a difference from just a great experience to an amazing experience, and just unbelievable. And wow, I didn't think that you did that. And when we have been doing that on a regular basis, we have a incredibly strong reputation in our community, and we want to make sure that it stays strong. So, I mean, those kinds of things, we don't want to call ourselves a local market expert without diving into some expertise, but we also don't need to be a doctorate in it before we start. We just want to make sure that it's our strong focus, and to know all that stuff. So let me tell you about what we are covering in the 12 weeks of our Farming Will Make You Millions course. And we start off with why we farm. We jump into some statistics, some wins, some things that we want to pay attention to as we dive in. And then we dive into choosing a farm, and we do that right at the top of the course because it's probably one of the biggest and most important things. We want to make sure that we're choosing a mine from a business mindset versus a feel-good. We also will talk about some opportunities that if the numbers don't work in the area that we want to farm, some things that we can do to make sure that we can farm that area and it's profitable. We might do that by adding some extra areas around it, different things like that.
Well, we want to make sure we, focus on removing the emotions of making a decision when picking a farm, and make it more of a business decision. And there's a lot that goes into that, and we break that down and just kind of explain statistically why. And I know some of it will seem pretty obvious, but you'd be surprised. I really want that area, and then we run the numbers back out and realize that there may not be enough opportunity in that area. And then just talk about starting small to go big, and just getting the activities down consistently and going through that process. So
yeah, and it's growing with revenue too. You don't want to take on too much, and so we may want to farm half the city, but we might start with a neighborhood, and that's what we did. Started with a neighborhood, and now we farm a good section of a pretty large city. We talk about positioning, how the consumer's mind works, why positioning works, and then some strategies to become first in mind. We'll walk through some hyper-local marketing, looking specifically at direct mail and a few other things, and looking to see why we put everything in, the different things that we've learned, some things that we don't add to our direct mail anymore that we used to, and we'll talk through how to do direct mail, to what are the most cost-effective ways, some new opportunities that are coming to the market, things like that. We spent a whole week on farm marketing techniques that we'll go through, some activities that we do, some events that we do, some really fun things that engage the community, and we'll have a whole bunch of how-tos on those as well. We spend a week on prospecting in the farm, where we walk through some scripts that work, especially when we're considering that when we're in the farm, cold calling is less than optimal, and continuing the conversation is a better approach, because they've already been exposed to our brand, because they already know who they are, and also because we have a brand to protect. Some of the same scripts that we use elsewhere may not work best in a farm, so we'll walk through the conversational approach, some different strategies for doing phone prospecting in the farm, and a couple new scripts you probably haven't seen before. The farm route, Kenny, you were a FedEx driver, and even sometimes when the FedEx people come into the office, there's like an affinity there.
Yeah, and it's really just about, after 13 years of being the FedEx guy, just kind of understanding the value in running a route and, getting to know that area so well versus another driver who would, be a swing driver and come in and do that for a period of time while you're on vacation, or in this case, sick today. And so I really go through kind of my experiences is building that farm route and creating reasons to go have a route to run, so that you have purpose every month to be back out in the community with something unique, something important, and something of value to connect with the local businesses and with the community.
And then we'll talk about in depth about creating brand ambassadors, how we do that, how we do the neighborhood network meeting. We'll talk about being a local market expert and the stats that we want to learn on an ongoing basis, the things that we want to know about our communities on an ongoing basis to make sure that people see us as the expert. We did dive into niche farming, where we're marketing to subsets of our farm and finding some profitable subsets, like maybe police officers, firefighters, maybe it's people who had a short sale or foreclosure and need to be able to own again, and using the same marketing pieces that we're already using to reach a larger base of people. So we're able to reach groups of people, we're able to do events and things, and it doesn't cost us any extra. In fact, we were just talking about our workshop and a listing that we had gotten from it, and we were tracking the ROI on that and realized that we haven't, for that workshop, it didn't cost us a penny. And so the ROI was pretty significant on just that one listing.
6% listing and just some time.
Yeah, and so we'll walk through some of that stuff, and then connecting online, some ways that we can connect with people on the internet in a farm basis, and using some of the tools that some of the social media platforms, some other things have. So that's what we want to talk about on the call today. I just want to let you know that we do have the in-depth course, 12 weeks of just diving into this. It starts in 2 weeks on October 10. And I just talked to MAPS today, and we were able to do a code for today only. So if you go to mapscoaching.com and it's / farming can make you millions. But if you just go to mapscoaching.com and select group coaching, you'll be able to see it there if you don't want to get that whole link typed out, and you'll be able to see it. Farming Can Make You Millions. This course is part of a larger certification program for listings. So check into that as well. But if you use the code WEB15 today, you get 15% off. They let me know that only works today. So if you're listening to this and it's a recording and you didn't listen today, I am sorry, but that is the code. It's just for today. So if you have any questions, there's a question box. You can answer those. We've had a few people expressing that you sound horrible, Kenny.
Sorry, guys. It's awful. And this doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I do it right.
So I'm going to go get a can of Lysol when you're gone. We happen to be in my office that he's sending all those bugs in. So we have a couple questions. If you have a question, just put it in the question box.
Remember, there are no dumb questions, just dumb people that ask questions sometimes. So let's have them.
So Isabel's asking, what percentage of your business comes from farming?
About 1 to 2%. I'm not sure how they allowed us to do this. No, it's a great question, and I get it a lot. Right now, we're close to mid to upper 60s of our, and I'm going to say farm sphere and database. And the reason I'm grouping that all together is because in 01, when I started farming, I didn't track numbers, I didn't track sources. I was just excited to have some business and do some business.
And there was more money coming in than going out.
That was my P&L. And so the reality of it is it's so mixed now with what we would call a sphere or a past client. Honestly, in a big percentage of that truly came originally, if you track it back, from the farming, because I didn't have anything else. And so, of course, you have friends and family and sphere to a degree, but we're happy if you combine them all, we're close to 70% of our business.
And not only that, but a lot of our business that gets tracked as past client, we're selling their house that they bought in our farm. And so
yeah, so to answer your question, it's a big percentage. It's not an exact science. And even today we struggle with it. We know that it was, in 03 that I met them and sold their house in Augusta Ranch, for example, but they bought 2 homes with us. So now are they considered a past client, or is the source still sphere of farming, because that's how it originated. And so sometimes, our agents will work with clients and they're just tagged as past clients. They don't necessarily know. Point is, it's a big percentage, and it's honestly the reason that I'm blessed, me and Scott, to have the opportunity to even share this content with you, is because we built it from scratch and consistently did it. And now it's, the main reason we have the business we have, and that we're in our 9th year of, averaging a home sold every single day, is because of the foundation that was built by dominating and taking market share in a geographic area.
Yeah, and one of the things that we do talk about in the week where we're talking about building brand ambassadors is farming the database. And we want to make sure that, we're not giving up on these folks that we got through our farming activities just because we happen to sell them a house or sold their home. And so we want to stay in front of them. And so we do talk about some of the strategies we're using for farming our database. Isabel also asked how much GCI from farming. Well, last year we did 3.5,
I think it was
3.5 million
GCI, and again,
and so 60% of that.
Yeah, I'd say it was like 65 or so percent if you combine those. But again, it's not a perfect science, but if you can build your business, which is, I'm just sharing from personal experience, based on farming, pass, repeat, sphere, everything else becomes a distraction or becomes just really the icing on the cake. So all I can tell you genuinely is the cake is farming, which then created pass, repeat, referral business, and database. And then internet leads and all the other stuff is just, if it happens to come in because we have listings, that's what happens. So I hope that answers it. I know it's not probably nailed down specific. It's just the honest truth that, and you can peel us back since, coming to KW in 2010 and being on stage with Gary, and that's been our numbers. And it all originates. I mean, Craig's got 3 listing appointments today, my brother, and every one of them is, in the farms. And so he just, the benefit of what my goal is to help you build and go from having a job to actually owning a real estate business in a hyper local community, so that people are calling you to come out and see their house and apply to, to sell it, versus you're one of 7 calling on, some online agent mountain and internet lead type thing where you're just a piece of meat and you spend a lot of time. We want efficiencies, we want quality, we want your confidence that when you go to a house, you already know the house, the area, the schools, the businesses. And that certainly doesn't mean you can't do business outside of an area that you work to become the expert in, but it means that your foundation would want to be in those areas. So I hope that helps and is as genuine as we can be with you, that we care about the success of everyone who goes through our class, because at the end of the day, it's real, we're doing it. It's just a matter of, are you committed to take action?
And I'm not seeing any other questions. So thank you so much for joining us on the call today. And we hope to see you in the course. We do the course both, it's over the phone, so it's not in a GoToWebinar setting like this. That's why it's probably a little bit more tough to hear us, because we're not used to using this system. We keep the audio pretty strong for the calls. And we start the call, we keep the questions to the end so that you can make sure that you get all of your content. If you're on the call and you're not listening to everybody asking the questions, we put those at the end of the call. And then we also have a discussion group that we keep going throughout the course. And then we have an alumni group after the course, so that we're continuing to answer all those questions. So the communication is, we keep it very, very strong throughout, able to answer a lot of your questions. And we've been working on this content for quite a while. This is our 9th session that we're doing, and we've added to it each and every time. So look forward to seeing all of you there, and go out and sell some real estate.
There you go. Thank you. Thanks, Eileen. You're there.